Yes, team, and welcome back to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today, we have a really interesting guy. We were introduced by my former client, and also, to be honest, mate, he's just a really good friend, Ben Hawksworth, the founder of the Coach Consultant. He works with this gentleman on his business strategy as well as ours as well. It's Antoine Paucod. I had to work really hard on that one. Paucod. He's the founder of the Coach, based in Switzerland. And what this guy is doing is so unique. And when I spoke to him, he's got a very interesting energy. And I know that everybody that's listening is going to pick up a hell of a lot of value from this conversation. So, Antoine, mate, welcome to the Total Mental Performance Podcast.
Thank you, thank you for the invitation first, and hi everyone. Basically, with the coach, we create a company that supports personal trainer growth, and we've based our growth and the support that we give on a few axes. The first one is basically gym sourcing. So we've created something that have never been done before. It's a gym sourcing membership. So it's basically you pay a subscription to ours and you got access to a full range of clubs all around Geneva, from the club chains to the individual clubs, where you can bring your clients without your clients being clients at the gym. So it's basically a brand new type of pass where as a coach you can just access everywhere to push your clients. So first access is gym sourcing, and obviously on the other side to bring more value in what we provide, and just to make sure that the trainers that wear the brands and them, the coach brand like this, can give as much as possible quality in the coaching. We provide an educational platform also on the side where we teach them how the biomechanics work, nutrition, mobility, rehabilitation, sales, and digital marketing, just to make sure that they get the full package and they're in a very good position to start and grow their own business.
Oh, man, what a beautiful business model. So, if I play it back, it's almost like the Uber or the Airbnb of personal training in high-end luxury coaching. Is that
Yeah,
is that right, or have I butchered that understanding?
yeah. I mean, you say something very interesting by saying it's the Uber of the industry, because actually, what we want is in the future for 2025-26 is building a unique platform where you can just have coaches who can just meet clients, and with all the data that we're gathering at the moment, with coaches entering the clubs, coaching, having their session, with the review that they have, we'll be in good position to standardize
Mm.
the access of personal training with bringing different value to coaching. And as I said, there is no problem with paying a cheap personal training and a very expensive personal training from the time that you know why you're paying a certain price.
Mm.
Some of coaches can be paid as $60 an hour. Some other could be paid $200 an hour. But why, as a customer, am I paying this price? And that's the most valuable question that you need to ask yourself. Is if the student is out of the school, just freshly, he just got his diploma just a month ago, it doesn't worth in terms of skills and experience as much as a trainer that has 10 years experience with 2,300 hours on the field, coaching, plus a numerous numbers of diplomas. So obviously the prices does matter, but why you pay that price needs to be clarified in the industry, I guess.
Wow. Yeah. So you're adding value. The way you're adding value to the gyms is obviously there will be a financial incentive, but also just bringing people in who want to train there. So that's a
Yeah.
new client acquisition side. And then for the trainers, not only can you find clients and get paid, but then you can upskill your knowledge.
Mm,
Yeah, man, I think it's a genius model.
yeah.
Genius.
Well, thank you very much first for the compliment, and also we've created that thing is because actually what we've seen in the industry, especially in Switzerland, is having clients is already a challenge. Getting clients in the pipe and taking care of them is a real challenge. But then after, you might be limited to a certain area, and then after bring clients to other clubs could be a friction, because whether they have to be a membership, whether you have to pay for them to enter the club, which is as a trainer a direct impact on your revenue. So by doing this is, we're making sure that they can just have a big source of gyms to work around and just increase their income substantially.
Yeah, mate, that's awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I think what you're doing is going to help a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
and I think we spoke about I have a technology background. I was in software sales, and I built an app. So when I see somebody building different technologies and applying technology to a people problem, because that's what coaching is. Coaching is a
Yeah,
people problem. You know, it's all about helping people solve puzzles and solve problems. So when I see that in this space, man, that's what I said to you before. I think it's very cool and very admirable what you're doing. And you know, if you prove the market model, then I think you're onto
I think
something
you're
good.
right. I think you're right. I mean, coaching is definitely. I mean, when people ask me, you're coach anymore, I say I'm more a coach than. I mean, I'm just a real coach. I'm just don't
Mm.
coach clients as individuals anymore, but I'm coaching coaches to be better. So it's definitely just supporting, giving access, helping people to grow in the way that they need. So yeah, of course.
And there is, you know, there's two parts of coaching. There's the business of coaching, and then there's the delivery of coaching. Some people are really good at the business and they suck at the delivery. Other people are really good at the delivery, but they suck at the business side. So
Yeah,
you're really helping people on both sides because the gyms is the business of coaching, and
yeah,
it's the to a degree, but it is. But then also, and then for these guys, it's the delivery of coaching. Well, if you just want to deliver, relax. Like we've got that, and we're going to help you become better at delivery, and you can really specialize and get essentially what you created is a win-win-win, and the best
yeah.
businesses are win-win-win. So I like it, man. I think it's very cool.
Exactly what you said. It's funny that you mentioned the win-win-win effect because this is exactly the same word I'm using when I'm explaining what is the coach about. It's I call it also the equalizer in the fitness industry. Is basically we put an entity between coaches, gyms, and us, and we're just making sure that everybody can have a piece of the cake. So it's
Yeah.
win-win-win, as you said.
Well, everything's got to be win-win-win. Like when I look at my coaching team, it's got to be win-win-win for them. They've got to love the work they do, and they've got to be well paid for it. When we
Yeah,
look at our TMP clients, you know, they've got to make sure that they get what they came for. And when we look at the work that we do and the partner work that we do with all of our partners, it's got to be win-win-win for them, you know? So when you can really start to think like that, and instead of it being I win, you lose, which a lot of business is built on I win, you lose, um, well, then you're just going to get stuck. Or and actually, when you
yeah.
can find highly intelligent, high energy, high integrity players that also want to build win-win-win partnerships, well, then fucking hell, like you can really change the game, and you can do it in a way that's authentic, in a way that's above board, and in a way that feels good. You know?
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned it. Authentic players, and it's all about making sure that there is equality in the system in the industry. And I had a phrase, a very funny phrase that my father used to tell me when I was younger, and I replicate that phrase in a certain way. So the phrase was basically. Happy wife, happy family. So this is what I used to say to me, and how I replicate this to the fitness industry is happy gym or happy club or happy the coach, happy teams.
Mm,
Is basically coach need to be happy to because coaches are basically the first entry of the pipe. So if coaches are happy, if coaches are sustainable into their business and they're making money, they're gonna shine. And if they're shining, the whole industry is shining. So everybody is happy. The gym has more members. The client, the coaches has more members. We have more coaches entering the pipe. So is their success is our success, and then therefore is the success of the gym. So it's how I
yeah,
replicate it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. We've got a coach in our team, Dr. Kate Blackford. So she's got a PhD in organizational psychology, and a big part of happiness is safety. So when your team members feel safe, they feel safe with the people in your team. They feel safe with the people they have to operate. They feel financially safe. Well, then that covers that base, which then unlocks them the ability to be happy. That unlocks
Mm,
them the ability to actually show up because you and I, we can't have 100 of us to. We got to have people that extend those values and that energy that we're bringing to the market. But that, as leaders, that starts with us. It doesn't start anywhere else. So, yeah,
mhm.
happy wife, happy life. In boxing, there's a phrase: a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. And I
Hmm.
experienced that. I was times when I
Yeah,
was happy in the gym and having a good connections and good sparring, and I was always much better than when I was stressed and anxious or there was pressure or whatever.
yeah, makes sense a lot. Makes sense a lot.
So how did you get here? Like, run me through the story of Antoine. Like, how do you land in the position where you're launching a people and technology business and working in that space? Where did it all start?
Oh, well, I think it all started back in 2016. So basically, I opened my first gym and I called it Smart Fitness Corp. So corporation, I used smart as something brand new, and fitness obviously because it was part of the fitness industry. And the idea was bringing as much talent around myself to make sure I can give the best experience for customers, in order that when you come into the club, you have boxers, nutritionists, every kind of trainer to find whatever you need to make sure that when you live a proper experience, it's just making sure that
Mm.
you enjoy the path coming with us. And well, everything happened not the good way. I went bankrupt. I went bankrupt. But still, I had that dream in mind, and I moved out because I was in France, and I moved out to Switzerland, which is at the border at the moment, actually, forever. But what I've done is, okay, I said, okay, let's start again from the ground. Let's build up a new clientele. Just make sure that I have a lot of clients again to make sure that I got money in the pipe to build something new. So this is what I've done basically until COVID happened. I was full house. I was 60 PT per week on the ground, making
Mm.
a bunch of money, working uh, fucking well. That was a very good business. COVID happened, and COVID taught us, I mean, that we need to be more online. We need to give value in another way. So obviously, the virtual way of giving value was in my mind, and I said, okay, so now I got money. I know that we need to bring value in the pipe, but virtually, in order just to make sure that people keep paying and keep subscribe to a certain type of service. So what can I do from here? And I knew I was bored with PT because after years of training and personal training, I mean, I've been coaching hundred, if it's not thousands of persons toward their goal. That was very funny. I learned a lot about human being, and I said, okay, so now I want to fulfill someone else's needs, and what can I do with the experience I have with what COVID bring at the table and the virtual needs of basically helping people. Okay, so I'm gonna create the Coach V1. So the Coach V1 was an immersive thing where I had PTs that I helped to get more clients in, which is my gym now, but I was just renting the gym before. I was supporting their need by asking them on a monthly basis what they need in order to grow. I was
Mhm.
also providing coaching to the coaches, and we create an online. I mean, we've worked with Trainerize for online follow up for clients. So I had basically the coaching and the online presence for the clients. So that was the start of it. We started to make a good business of it. That was very good. But then after we figured out that working with people, with individuals, means that you're facing ups and downs in the industry because it remains a pleasure, it remains a leisure. It's not a need that you providing. I mean, you're not providing the key to make that needs happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then what we've done so far is, I said again, now I just want to work B2B. So only with personal trainers, only with professional, because having clients for them is a need. So I just don't
Mm.
want to rely anymore on clients. I'm relying on coaches because I'm supplying their needs. So they're gonna be way much more involved and way much more attached to what I bring on the table. So, and on this way for 2023, we've decided to remove clients, individuals from the pipe and focus only on personal trainers. And with all the information that we've gathered during the year 2022, uh, uh, coaching, we're saying we need to learn more things to be more efficient and be more effective during personal training. So okay, we're going to provide that. We need to have more area to coaches because we're refusing coaching at the moment that are not around ourselves. So we need to have a network of gyms. So this is what we said. Starting from 2023, we said, okay, so we're gonna provide you education, and we're gonna provide you a range of gym where you can exist and start coach and start getting more clients and having more revenue. So this is what along the year 2023 we've decided to build. And at a certain point, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed because there was many trainers coming in, many demands to to supply, and many needs to make sure to provide.
Mm.
I mean, that was very difficult for us. And this is at the moment where I have a call with Ben. I said, Ben, I need
Mm.
some help because I'm giving too much value in terms of time. So I can't focus on the growth anymore. I'm now in the business and not on the business. So Ben comes in the industry. He comes into the company, and he started to say, okay, we're gonna put things in place, and we're gonna make sure that you can work on making this happen, keeping the growth, and we're gonna make sure that you're growing as a company, and we're gonna make sure that there is less friction in terms of time with the coaches and your team. And here we are at the moment with almost 100 coaches in the team, and keep scaling. So yeah.
Wow. What a story. And it's a real entrepreneurial story because entrepreneurs are listening. At every
Yeah.
stage, you've listened to every single stakeholder involved in all of it. Yeah,
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, you said something very right. It's all about listening.
that's what coaching is.
Yeah.
That's what coaching is. You've listened and you've listened and you've listened. And you're like, okay, well, this is where clients are doing their personal training. Okay, cool. And then you've listened a layer deeper and you've gone, okay, well, this is what coaches need. Okay. And then you've listened even deeper. Okay, this is what gyms need. Okay. And the model that you've built, I don't know if you're familiar with it, is B2B to B2C, right? Because
Yeah.
there's the gym, and there's you, and then there's the personal trainers who technically have their own businesses, and then the C is the client. So you're
Yeah.
now adding value down the chain. And I think we have very shared values because for me, all we work on is psychological freedom for coaches and entrepreneurs. That's really important to me. But I know that when I do my job correctly and my team and all of our infrastructure and our systems do our job properly, well, our coaches and our entrepreneurs are coaching people, they're leading people, or they have teams, right? So if they're firing on
Yeah.
their best, that then gets translated down the chain. And you're doing exactly the same thing because you're helping the leaders at the gyms and the facilities. You're helping the actual coaches themselves. They're actually coaching individuals. Yeah.
Hmm.
When we talk about that positive network effect and using business for good, like that's a cool mission, man.
Yeah,
That is a
that's correct.
very cool mission. So tell me before, that was 2016. Let's go even deeper on Antoine. So where was you born and run me through some of that story and how you got to 2016.
All right. I'm adopted. I'm a Brazilian kid. So I'm from Brazil. I've been adopted when I was young, and I've been raised by a French family living at the border from Switzerland. And 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 something I used to say a lot is, I've been born with luck. I'm loaded with luck because I could remain in Brazil and be like living a life in the favelas. I mean, being involved in drug deals and stuff like this. But life, I've decided something else for me. I've been adopted by a French family, which is a very loving French family. I mean, a pretty a pretty a pretty well financial French family, if I can say so. Luck, I started from here, and then after I went into an international school, which I think helped me a lot. It helped me a lot because since I'm pretty young, I've been exposed to a lot of culture around myself. I've been
Mm.
exposed to different languages, to different cultures, to different way of living, basically. And we were all gathered in the same classroom. So when you're a kid and you're exposed, because we know kids are very have a very elastic brain and they can adapt to everything. So when you're a kid and you're exposed to as many culture as this when you're young, you adapt very quickly to your environment. And so I think that was one of the best biggest piece of my luck is I've been exposed to so many culture and so many vision that first I've absorbed a lot of way of thinking, a lot of way of creating, and with all this information I've created my own. I've said, okay, now I can just
Mm.
think. I'm okay with you. I'm okay with you. I disagree with you. What you think is very interesting. I'm just gonna take a piece of it. Or I mean, you think even better. And this point, I'm gonna take it also. And I think this is
Mm.
pretty much one of my biggest asset, I can say, is being exposed to so many culture.
Mm.
And then after, well, I was because I think being an entrepreneur is is being a bit against authority. Is being a bit against authority is you want to create your own way. You want to create your own way. And when I was in school, I didn't feel I was at my place. I was in the French school. We used to learn a lot of grades and a lot of lessons and stuff. And I was like, I don't like this. I went for A levels. A levels in a British school where I learned physical education, French, English, and psychology. That was thing I was very interested in. I took no, I took Italian, sorry, Italian and French because I had some skills. So that was kind of cheating, you know. It's okay.
Mm.
I've got some facilities. I'm gonna go there. Uh, I need only 3 grades to validate my A level. So then after I said, of course, I'm gonna take physical education because I love sport, and I'm also very curious about people because I've learned to be curious when I was young,
Mm.
being exposed to all those cultures. So I said, okay, let's move into psychology because it makes sense to me. And this is where I really started to mix this interest into building something that fulfilled the need of individuals around sports. So this is where I think I create my personality is having this psychology thing and saying, okay, how could you be a figure of authority? How could you bring value? How could you help people also? Because I think I'm very generous people. I'm a very generous person, and I really like to give and help and provide, even
Mm.
if there is no return. It's just the pleasure of giving. So I was like, okay, maybe I can find my way with this small psychological background, physical education background, what I've learned from human being at school. And then I've decided also again to go into learning fitness to be more specific. And I think I've built my personality along this path.
Mm. Wow, man, what a fucking story! There's so much I'd love to unpack on that. The languages and cultures piece is very interesting, right? So
Mm,
in England, we're very spoiled, and what I mean by that is the whole world adapts around our language. So what happens is when it comes to multiple different languages, like the UK, the US, and Canada actually has like the lowest. Well, Canada is actually a lot higher because they have French, but certain parts of Canada is actually very low. And with that comes, I feel, a cultural laziness. As we were speaking before the podcast, my mum was born Spanish mum, dad's from Ireland, born in London, and like growing up in those cultures, I had to learn. I think when you learn a different language, you this is going to sound a bit intense for someone that hasn't learned a language before, but I feel like you interpret reality differently when you start using different language structures and you start using different
sure.
words because like if you look at Spanish, like the Spanish language can so soft and love it, and it's different. English has got very little words. It's a very lazy
Mm,
person's language, whereas in Spanish there's so many different words. My girlfriend, she's from Russia, and I'll say one word, and she has 7 different words for the same word, and I'm like, what on earth is that? So you're really
mm,
forced to see reality differently, and I think that's a real advantage to an entrepreneur because A, you're connecting and understanding with people, and B, you seeing things differently. And to be a top
mm,
entrepreneur, you have to see the things that other people aren't seeing. You have to be
mm,
able to spot that. That's often why entrepreneurs struggled at school because they were seeing things that other people weren't seeing. It's often why they don't feel like they fit in. And it's
mm,
only when you start going through life and as you start meeting other entrepreneurs and people in that space, you start to realize, it's not just me. But often people feel very alone, and they felt very alone in their childhood coming up through that. So that was a real interesting piece I come up for me on the language and the culture part. How does that land for you as I say that?
yeah, well, a lot is very interesting because, well, I think when you learn the language, the whole culture come with it. So this is what you said. I mean, it's thinking differently, and I mean, you got Latin culture, you got obviously Eastern Europe culture, you got US, UK culture. So of course, and what you said is right. Is learning English US and learning English UK. It's a different package. It's a
Mm.
different package. Is you understand things differently because I mean, the culture comes with it. So you have two different culture, but it's the same language, but still, it's two different
Mm.
culture. So you live all the interaction differently. So yeah, yeah, it means a lot. It means a lot for sure.
Yeah. And the next part that came up for me in your story was about psychology, so understanding people. And the crazy thing about psychology is it's such a rabbit hole because our whole reality, our whole experience of our life comes through our mind and comes through our psychology. It's a supercomputer with endless lines of code written in childhood and your life experiences. Yet nobody teaches us the instruction manual. And as you start to learn about how people tick, as you start to learn about what drives people, intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, insecurities, fears, doubts, achievements, all those various different things, well, then you can coach on a deeper level than just a fitness plan or a training plan. But you got to do the work on you because you can only take a client as deep as you've gone yourself. And you've clearly done a lot of work in that area, which helps you build teams, add value for shareholders, for investors, for the company, for everything. So that was really interesting too. From what I'm going to ask a really left field question, Anton. What does psychology mean to you?
Is getting to know and understand different perspective. Yeah, getting to know and understand that there is 10 different ways of thinking, and the 10 different ways are right or correct. It's how you perceive a certain situation because you're in that position and not in this position. So you can perceive it in a different way, and your way is correct also. And I believe psychology is understanding or acknowledging that you have multiple way of seeing a situation, and all those ways are right or correct because they're lived from a different person, a different shoes basically. So I think it's this, but it's also understanding what our people needs to be better, to feel better, to perform better, as you probably know. And I think I think I mean, humankind, we all have in us some very very good hard skills, I would say, that just need to be unleashed because we're in a good state of mind. And being in the good state of mind is, of course, knowing yourself, what you need, but also knowing your environment and knowing in what environment you're evolving in order just to shine better, if I can say.
Mm. There's a word that's come up for me recently, which I've been thinking a lot about, is self-preservation. And when you have a business, sometimes limiting beliefs can come up and you go into self-preservation mode. I kind of have and you can see the same when people are going through rehab, and so physical rehabilitation for injuries, and on the physical side, what I've been working on recently is I realized that I don't have those limitations in business and coaching and leadership and what I'm doing there. All of my limitations are self-preservation in the gym because I have spent so much time injured as a boxer. And when I get injured, it impacts my ability to train, which impacts my ability to think and feel and perform for the business. So
Mm,
self-preservation has been kicking in my own gym. So for example, I knocked my knee
yeah,
the other day, and instead of me smashing my gym session as normal, I wanted to like, oh, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to do it, and I'm having to push myself through that barrier. So
yeah,
the part you mentioned, that self-preservation came up, and it's the beliefs around, okay, well, what is that? And it's now for me the personal challenge is bringing my my work, Kieran, back onto the gym floor because somewhere down the line, self-preservation kicked in. It's like, oh, but if you injure
yeah,
yourself, that'll impact your work, and you're so happy there, and then that impacts your robustness, and then you're more likely to get injured, and that's the loop, right? So
yeah,
self-preservation
yeah.
came up as you said that, which
No, I know
fascinates me.
exactly what you mean. And it's also the fact that you're not be able to give one other person what you're doing at sports that may be frustrating, and then after replicating this effect on productivity at work, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Self humans Physics I find is fascinating because you have sports, and sports is very black and white. You win or you lose. You're too old. You're out. Done. Finished. Over. Whereas business is infinite. Like some of my mentors are in their 50s, 60s. they're still doing business. They're still building companies, investing in companies. They're still working on strategy. Business is a real, like, you can play that forever, but it's only your
Yeah.
level of thinking and your level of your ability to take on risk and listen and learn, and the ability to fail and go again and go again and go again. That's all in the minds. So there, self-preservation can kick in. What if I put out this piece of content and I look like an idiot? What if I launch this new program and it completely fails and it falls flat on its face? It always comes back to self-preservation. And when you can get to that place of, well, you know what, I'm enough regardless of what happens, and everything's just data, it's all an experiment. I'm going to prove or disprove my theory or my hypothesis. That's when business starts to become fun. But it always comes back to your psychology. How can you break through that level of self-preservation that's going to stop you from doing that? Would you say in your work that's been an area that's always been very easy, or actually have you had to really break through a lot of limiting beliefs that to get you to where you are today?
Well, I think I've always been very. I'm not scared of taking a risk, and I'm not scared of losing everything. So what I would say is that helped me a lot to build things, but also it triggered a lot of anxiety in myself of failing, because I think I'm ruthless, but still I have an ego, so I don't want to fail. And then after it
Yeah.
triggers anxiety, so I think the hard part for me is being able to be ruthless, but accepting that fail is part of the process. So I've done a lot of work on it, but still, in terms of preserving myself, it's hard sometimes because you don't want to be ruthless and just go all out on everything. You can't do this because then after, I think when you start, you can be ruthless and lose everything. But then after, at a certain point, when you have created something, you need to keep in mind that you need to 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 keep what you've created if you want to scale up. So well, I don't know if I answered the question correctly, but I think
I
it's what I
think I
felt
think
when you asked the
yeah, yeah. So it's the dance. So for you, you've always been a risk taker. So you've always been like, oh fuck it, let's go, let's see what
question.
happens. I really resonate with your story when you said you went bankrupt. I didn't go bankrupt, but I ended up in £15,000 of debt from a failed. It was actually a nutrition app for boxers. So you'd put in your
Yeah,
height, your weight, your body type, all of the training sessions that you were doing in your fight, and it would calculate a plan. And this was like 20 I want to say 2014, maybe 2013, and it all completely went wrong. The boxing market's tiny, hardly anyone's fighting. Like, we spent all this money building the stuff, lost it all. And it was fuck. Uh, so I have a real I have an appetite for risk too, but that was just let's go. But that was a crash course in learning. So some people are wired that way, but then there comes another point where when you start winning, and it's like, oh, I don't want to lose, and you fall out of playing to win, and you fall into playing to not lose, and it's catching
hmm
yourself. Okay, well, am I playing to win or am I playing to not lose? And it's always a dance
yeah,
that can happen. It's like, okay, if I was playing to win, what would I say? And what I start playing with the bets, I like calling them bets because bets are fun. I don't bet, I don't gamble, but the idea of a bet is more fun than high risk investment, right? Listen to that
yeah,
language. So, all right, I'm going to place a bet, and I always bet what I can afford to lose. So if this goes completely wrong, what's the absolute worst case scenario, and can I afford that? And if the answer is
mhm,
yes, then I make that bet. If the answer is no, well, then that's how I reconcile that. But it's always playing
yeah,
with the ego, because the ego is self-preservation. It doesn't want to fail. It doesn't want to look like an idiot. It doesn't want to look stupid. So you kind of get stuck in these loops. And when you get stuck, I find if you spend too much time overthinking a decision or a risk, it gets
yeah.
harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. So you're better off just saying either no or yes once you've got the data, and then just it'll come with time.
Go for it or not? Yeah, for sure. But I think
Mm.
with this also, I think that state of mind recently is, I think then that when you have achieved a few things and you know your capabilities, um, and you're confident in yourself, then the question I ask myself is, if I had to lose everything, I'm sure I would recreate it again, because now I
Mm.
mastered the way on how to do it. So I'm again on a position where I say, okay, let's go for it, because anyway I know my worth, I know my value. There is no pretension. I just know I can do it. So I
Mm.
might just move for it. So recently, this state of mind I've been into, I would say. So, well, I think along your career, you just pass through different moments where sometimes you feel more confident and feel more risky. I mean, more able to take some risk because you're just confident as hell. And sometimes you're maybe more fragile because family, friends, sleeps, whatever, a lot of things, and you just feel less risky, and that puts pressure because yourself. I mean, I think I really think it comes from self confidence,
Mm.
and self confidence is not the same along the year or along your life, I guess.
Well, I like a phrase. I don't know if you know the word callus. You know when you're doing when you're doing deadlifts. So like you can see on my hand here, it's
Yeah,
called calluses, right?
yeah,
I like the phrase callousing the mind. And failure is your way of callousing the mind because it directly attacks your ego, it directly attacks your self-worth, it directly attacks your psychology. And when you can learn to callous the mind, well, then stuff doesn't hurt you as much because it's like, okay,
yeah,
well, I've been through that.
yeah,
For me,
yeah.
when I lost everything, and at one point I was living on like a sofa in like a really small, we call them council houses, which are like houses owned by the government in a really rough estate of South London. I'm £15,000 in debt. Everything's gone wrong. Girlfriend left me. Lost my place on the England team. Lost the business. Everything like really like I just felt trapped, like I had nothing. And I went back into software sales, and I was like, right, go again, and just cleared off the debt and worked my way through. And it kind of taught me a lesson. Number one, I can lose it all and I can make it back. So you have that story in you too, which is a real resilience. But then the other part is I what I did, and this might be really interesting, Antoine, if you did this, is I looked at that failure of the business, I looked at the failure of that relationship, and I looked at everything I felt like I'd failed at that moment. And I wrote down every single lesson. For example, I spent £2,500 on a branding pack, on a logo and graphics design and all this bullshit that just wasn't necessary, and this amazing website and all this bullshit. I just wrote down every single mistake that I made en route. And then with this company where it's 3 years old now and it's been growing pretty quick, I went back to that list at Christmas to have a look. Hang on, how many mistakes did I repeat? And I'd repeated almost, I think, probably about 15% of the same mistakes. But that's such a huge improvement because I was like, oh, I didn't spend a fortune on branding, which I just didn't need to do at that point. I didn't spend ages trying to build the product. I actually did to see if I actually tested, does people actually want this service? Is it actually going to help them or not before spending all that time on the development? There's so many different things, and it's only when you start to recognize that it's in the failure is where you get the experience, the scar tissue, the wisdom that then leads to your next success. And I think for me, it's been so. Like people look at TMP and went, that scaled so quickly. It's like, no, you didn't see like the 9 years of failure before that.
Yes.
There was some wins in there too. It wasn't just failure. There was some wins in there too, which I learned from. But you didn't see all the failures on route to getting
Yeah, a lot
there.
of failures along the path. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, what you say is headed right, I think, and Alex Summers said one thing wasn't maybe wrote it or I don't know. It resonates to me a lot now. Is intelligence is you see a red card, I slap you in the face. Okay, next time you see a red card, I slap you in the face. You have people that are gonna put their hand to protect themselves at the second time because they see the red card, and there's people who doesn't bring their hand in front of the face, so they take literally 10 to 20 slaps, and then after they react. And I think being a good entrepreneur today is acknowledge all the failure that you've made because you suffered in a certain way and said, I don't want to pass through this process again. So I'm going to create a firewall. I'm going to just create, I don't know, an escalator, whatever, to just turn or just even just break the wall, whatever. But I'm not going to pass in a different way as quick as possible. And
Mm.
I think is But failure needs to be there anyway, and failure needs to be there to understand that there is another path to take. And I think what you said is just fucking right, because if you don't fail, you don't move forward, you don't create something. But people don't see the failure because they haven't been into those failures. They haven't been through those failures. So they just see the thing that you've overcome, and they said, "Okay, oh, you here now? Yeah, I'm here because
Mm.
I've been through those shit before, but you didn't see it because you didn't live them." I think this is it.
Yeah, you know what, Antoine? I'm going to make this introduction for you if it helps you. I don't know. One of my mentors, he come to mind because he said to me, "Kieran, you're not failing enough." And I went, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're playing in your comfort zone and you're not taking risks, and you could be growing this business much more quickly. I need you to go and fail more. Like, go and take more risks, go and learn some more stuff." And that really shone with me. I was like, "Yeah, maybe I'm not failing enough. Maybe I need to take some bigger risks and see and learn and disprove." And that was an interesting um, piece of feedback. But this guy, he's an angel investor. He invests in different businesses. But what's particularly interesting is he's invested in a lot of technology businesses. He's had a lot of success in the technology world, but he's also owned and operated gyms, and he's sold gyms. So I think he's going to understand your business model really well. And I know for your business, your market, maybe it's just Switzerland, so maybe it's a little bit too early. I don't know, but at some point, I'm happy to make that introduction. And he's a great man manager and he's a great leader. So let me know. And if yes, I can make that intro after this call.
Yeah,
But he came
sure.
to
It
me.
was interesting. It was
Yeah.
interesting meeting new way of thinking, new well, new vision. I love I love being in contact with vision, even if it doesn't go anywhere. Just with the conversation, you can just absorb a lot of things. So I mean, seeing
Mm.
different vision, I mean, is very fulfilling. I believe.
Do you know what's funny, Antoine? This same guy, I pitched that business that failed. I pitched him for £50,000. And within 30 minutes, he went up to the whiteboard and he went, "Talk me through your business model." And then he went, "Okay, market's not big enough. Your price point sucks. Technology is difficult. I think this is going bust, and I think you're better off cutting the umbilical cord. By the way, here's a pivot that I can see, but it's not for me. I'm out." And within 30 minutes, I walked out that meeting and I went, "He's right." And we were like, literally, I sat down with he's now one of my best friends, Luke. We sat down afterwards, having a coffee, sat in London, looking across. He's like, "He's fucking right. This is a waste of time. Why are we wasting our time on it?" And he kind of just broke down the business model he played. And since then, I didn't actually contact him for. I didn't speak for about 3 months, and then I called him up and I said, "Ron, you told," because I texted him. I said, "Ron, can you help me? I'm trying to earn more money personally." He said, "Read Rich Dad Poor Dad." Then I rang him up 3 months later, and I said, "Hey, Ron, um, I'm fed up of being skint. Will you be my rich dad?" And he goes, "What?" I said, "Will you be my rich dad? I don't have a rich dad. Can you teach me like how to do this?" And then there was so many times on that journey, still a mentor of mine today, where he has held up that mirror and kind of gone, "You need to fail it a bit quicker, or maybe that's not going to help you." But you need those people that can spot business models, or they can challenge you as a leader, as a thinker, and as an entrepreneur. What we think is the way isn't always the way. Sometimes we think we've come up against the roadblock, but like you said, you just need to step to the side or go over the top or drill underneath. And yeah, I think you'll be a good guy to have a conversation with, and he's awesome as well. You'll really connect with him, I think.
It's funny what you just said with the board is it reminds me of thing is Fred, which is a friend of mine. He owns a fitness school. We share the same building. I mean, I have the gym. He has the fitness school. There are some physio also around. So I've created a platform of training. So he said, okay, let's work together on this because this is my core. I said, okay, let's
Mm.
do it so we can just share our forces. And the story, I come back again with this, the story of the whiteboard. One thing is very interesting. You picture me the thing with your mentor drawing something very quick and say, okay, that doesn't work. This is better. This could be improved. And I was in the exact same position with Fred, and I was like, motherfucker, you're right. I mean, you've seen things I've I haven't think about. You know, I was
Mm.
like, oh, okay, you that far. You're that far, and and I truly believe that it's with experience and being exposed to that kind of person that you can take their place one day to first teach to other person. And I think I've been exposed to so many brilliant person like you now recently, or Ben, that I have my time on the board a week ago explaining how we're gonna price
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
and I told me, you're right. You're right. I haven't think about that, and I was like, thank you. It's my time now. But I
yeah,
think it's because you learn being exposed uh, to genius entrepreneur or a different vision, that you can create your own path, and that comes again to uh, what I've said at the beginning. I think it's being exposed to different culture and different people and different vision, and human brain doesn't stop to learn. I think if you
Mhm.
stimulate it with curiosity.
Yeah. And it's having the right people there. So I talk about if you want to have a really fulfilling personal and professional life, you need sparring partners. So people that are in a similar field, similar industry, doing similar things to you to challenge each other. Let's take Ben. Ben's a great example on the business side, great sparring partner, and also mentor as well. You need somebody ahead of you, somebody
Mhm.
that has been there, has done it, has been around the block, and has seen it. And then you also need younger people, and that doesn't necessarily mean age. That can be experience or time in a certain field. And you need those people to pass that knowledge on, so you crystallize your learning. So all levels, you're being challenged with your I call them sparring partners on a similar
Mhm.
level. You have
Mhm.
your mentors that are passing down wisdom and knowledge and helping you avoid mistakes. And then you're crystallizing all of that knowledge from your sparring partners and your mentors by passing that back down. And when you can really find that, that's where I talk about abundance isn't just the financial, but it's how do you create a really rich life full of rich connections and doing what you enjoy. And my biggest value is psychological freedom. A big part
Mhm.
of that is connection.
Yeah.
And some of it's putting your ego aside and going, yeah, you know what? This guy, he knows more than me. I'm going to take it on the chin. And it's going, yeah, you know what? Maybe I don't know as much as I thought. And opening that curiosity. Okay, well, what can I learn? But those whiteboard moments, oh man, they hurt in the moment, but you kind of, there's a satisfaction. I don't know if you pick this up, but I get a satisfaction. I was like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. Like, I learned a lot.
No, but you're right. Definitely, I think knowledge is something that has to be passed. It has to be passed, and this is where you take a maximum from it. Is when you receive it, you adjust it with your vision, and you give it back to someone else. So the knowledges that you received has been key for you, but you're gonna give a refrain key to someone else because now you have your knowledge is also inside and your vision. So I think it really has to be passed from individuals to individuals, and that's what entrepreneurship is. I think is, as you said, is putting your ego on the side. Say, okay, this guy knows more than me. I need to learn from him. Of course, you need someone who's ready to also give the ball, huh? But and then I'm gonna learn something. I'm gonna probably readjust it with my vision, with my localization, and thing, and I'm gonna give it back to someone else to just hope that these things get bigger again.
Yeah. I learned, I was told this in boxing actually. And my boxing coach was a guy called Martin. He was a builder, working class guy. And he was like, listen, you're going to get all these coaches, right? And they're going to teach you all these various different weapons. Someone's going to give you a sword. Someone's going to give you some nunchucks. Someone's going to give you some ninja throwing stars. Maybe the ninja throwing stars are a little bit too flashy for you, mate. Maybe they don't work. But maybe the sword works for you. So you take that and you put that in the back of your head. And all the stuff that doesn't work, you just discard it. But always listen because everyone knows something you don't. And that stuck with me forever. Well, all of my mentors, sometimes they give me advice and I disagree. Or I try it and it doesn't work. And I go, okay, that's a set of ninja throwing stars, too complicated, too difficult. Cool. And then next thing you know, you pick up a pair of nunchucks. Ooh, that flows nice. All right, I'm going to go with the nunchucks. They work, and it's having that curiosity and that open mind, having your ego in check to know, okay, well, I don't, I think I know it, but maybe I don't. Let me try and test this and see if this works. And then it is just running experiments. When you start to run
Mm.
experiments, life just becomes open and fun.
Yeah, it makes sense a lot. Makes sense a lot.
Yeah. Well, Antoine, mate, I've deeply enjoyed this conversation. I'll ask one question that we ask every guest. So forget my company, Total Mental Performance, but I want you to think about the phrase. What does total mental performance mean to Antoine? If he had total mental performance, how would he know?
Limitless in one word. I would say limitless. I mean, if I have to say to use one word, and when I use a movie with Bradley Cooper, I think it was Bradley Cooper,
Hmm.
limitless is total control over you, your environment, what's gonna happen, how you can predict it. I mean, I really see mental as the final boss is basically controlling. I've read a book which is The Power of Now, and he said basically uh, mental is something that you need to control and not be controlled by.
Mm.
So if I need to resume, so it's controlling your mental performances means you can achieve whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. There is no limit. There is no limit. So this is what it means to me.
Beautiful, Antoine. Well, mate, I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. I've deeply enjoyed this conversation. And I know that everybody else listening back to this is going to find it super, super helpful. Where can everybody find you?
Well, on Instagram, I guess it's Antoine Paucod. Pretty hard to pronounce, Antoine Paucod. All attached in one word. And well, I'm basically all on Instagram at the moment. So
Okay.
yeah, all in one words, Antoine Paucod. Just come and follow. But it's in French, but still might be interesting either.
Awesome. Well, look, if you're listening to this back or you're watching it on YouTube or wherever you're picking this up, we'll do a collab post. So then just come back to the post on Instagram, click on Antoine's account. You can get in touch with him there if there's anything you're like, oh, this is interesting, or how do I get in touch, or whatever. But from my side, mate, a huge, huge thank you. If you found this episode helpful, please share it out to the world. We're trying to bring psychological freedom and total mental performance to the world. That's why we're put here on the planet. So, yeah, please share it, like it, subscribe, whichever channel you're catching this on. And I'll catch you all in the next episode.